component to our program as well. And also underneath the cyber safety program comes along with the anti-bullying education, as well as the wellness and resilience program, where we address stigma and mental illness. Okay. All right, so today I'm just going to talk briefly. I won't be able to share everything about our topics with you, but these are some of the challenges and risks that we discuss when we are speaking to our audiences. Cyberbullying, sexting, online predators, and human trafficking. I also have an opportunity to present with the Michigan map of Washtenaw County addressing human trafficking. Then we talk about digital reputation, what they put online that it can interfere with their college and career goals. So we talk about digital citizenship and netiquette, which is your online manners, your behavior online. We talk a little bit about privacy and security, how to protect their devices and their information, and the legal consequences that goes along with cyberbullying and sexting. Okay. So I want to share just a little bit of details, just some statistics that we share out. This is with Pew Research Center. And I wanted to start with cyberbullying, where we know that cyberbullying is when someone is targeted and there's an imbalance of power and they're called name calling, spreading rumors, posting things on the internet, harassing them, and maybe threatening to hurt them physically. So this is a national statistics. And as you guys can see, according to this particular research, 59% of the kids, the majority of teens, have experienced some form of cyberbullying, from inappropriate pictures through to rumors being spread about them. Okay. Now, the next topic, on both of these topics are our biggest topics. Sexting is our next big topic. We can also include some bullying part of it. So it's whenever someone creates, sends, and receives a sexually explicit message.
Is now joining.
I'm sorry. A sexually explicit image of someone under the age of 18. And this can be considered child pornography, indecent exposure, prostitution, and there's a lot of legal consequences that are attached to sexting as well. It can also include language. We actually read a case where it also included emojis. So we make sure we share those things with young people as we're speaking with them, as well as adults. As you can see, according to research again, 25% of teens have sent a sexting picture. And of the 25%, which is not listed here, over 50% of them will share with other people. Now, of teenage girls who have been asked if they are in a relationship with someone, they will, 68% of them will send a picture of themselves that's of a sexual nature. What's not listed here again is 40-some% of the girls who are not in an intimate relationship with someone, if they are asked, they will still send it. And we think the reason is because they want to impress, because they feel pressure to do so. And they just feel compelled. Maybe they want to be liked, want to be accepted, right? And a lot of times a bullying occur along with this. And of course, we'll talk about the impact of all those things. Because I only have 20 minutes, I'm not going to share a whole bunch with you guys about these topics, but we definitely go into greater details. We're talking about bullying as well as sexting and the impact that occurs, the type of kid that's doing the bullying, as well as those who are sharing and sending sexually explicit images. Okay, so our next hot topic is online predators, which I would like to say, just take a pause right here. During the pandemic, by kids being locked down and on their devices and on social media more, we are absolutely concerned about the increase of bullying and the increase of sexting and the increase of online predator situations. I don't have statistics right now. You know, of course, we're still researching everything that's occurring during the pandemic, but I did read an article that in the U.S., the numbers have jumped tremendously when it comes to online predators making contact with young people, and the amount of sexually explicit images that are on the internet of young people. Okay, so as you can see, is that both boys and girls are targeted by online predators, and 70% of them are girls. That's the increase. But I would like to say, even though the larger number is of girls, the increase of boys has occurred in the last couple of years. We've seen that number go up. As you can see, 1 in 5 teens who log onto the internet regularly have received unwanted sexual solicitation. Now, a lot of times we talk about the boy and the girl. Sometimes boys think because the majority of the victims are girls that they are exempt, but we want to make sure we send that message that no, that online predators are targeting both boys and girls. And the likelihood of an online predator being male is nearly 100%. Okay. The number that scares us the most is the one that's at the bottom, where it says that the number of kids who go with online predators, 100% of them go willingly. And we think that is because of the grooming process, or once they get to a meetup, that they just feel compelled to go, right? The other thing I want you guys to know is that for the younger, these numbers are from grades, I would like to say, age 12 to 17. But I would like to share some additional numbers for elementary school kids and middle school kids from grades 4 to 8. Now, of that group, 40% of them have reported being connected to an online stranger. Out of that number, 53% of them have revealed their cell phone number to a stranger. 21% have spoken to a stranger online. 11% of them have left their home and met with a stranger at the mall or park or a restaurant. Okay. And as I said, I can't go into all the details here because time is limited, but I do want to share the impact of all these things, because if someone is being bullied, they can also be involved in a sexting situation. If they are involved in a sexting situation, they can also be involved in an online predator situation, and it can go backwards. The online predator situation, the bullying, and the sexting, they all can come together. And we have actually seen cases where young people are dealing with all three at the same time, which can have a huge impact on them socially and emotionally, right? And jeopardize their safety. And we are all about risk reduction and providing this education. So we know that we may not be able to get rid of bullying totally and completely, but we figure, or sexting or online predators, but we figure if we can provide enough information that will reduce the amount of harm that occurs when it comes to these incidents. So the impact can be low self-esteem. I would say look for changes in their behavior. Some young people who already have low self-esteem definitely can get involved in any of these situations. Reaching out to someone that they don't know online because they feel isolated and lonely. And during this pandemic, I'm sure there's a lot of that going on because they're not connecting with their peers in schools and other organizations, and spend a lot of time online. And maybe there's some situations that they're not comfortable with, and so they tend to reach out, right? And they invite other people, make them feel good about themselves, and so they become a target. But a lot of things can occur. Changes in their behavior, changes in their attitude, more anxiety, stress, and depression. We are seeing that more often. Suicide ideation and death by suicide. A lot of their reputation being ruined. We've seen young ladies who have been the part of a sexting situation actually take their lives as a result because of the embarrassment and the bullying come their way. And of course, we've heard multiple stories of young people who have taken their lives after being bullied. And also there's a such thing as cyberbullying. I don't know if you all have ever heard of that, but they equate it to that self-harm behavior like cutting. Okay. And you see they have here the self-harm behavior like long sleeve shirts in the summertime, but that is not always the case. They can hide it in places that can be covered by shorts or a bathing suit, in the belly area or the upper thigh as well. Feeling isolated, not wanting to participate in activity, and not wanting to participate in activity, that can be as far as not wanting to play the gaming console anymore because something occurred on it, like a bullying or some other situation, maybe even a predator situation. Not wanting to hang out with their friends, not wanting to participate in social media, where they were very huge about Instagram and Snapchat and all the others, and now TikTok is one of the most famous one now that we're in the pandemic. They don't want to participate in those activities because something has occurred, like they lose interest in it, or maybe when a text message come in, they seem a little bit nervous about that message, and hiding their phones. not wanting you to look at what's coming through or the messages. Those could all be indicators that something is going on. And granted, it doesn't have to be any of those things. It could be other situations, correct? Missing school. And I know that we're in lockdown, so they're all in school virtually, but it doesn't mean that they may not want to log on to school, figuring out a reason or making up excuses for not wanting to log in and join their classmates for school. Very guarded about themselves and, their devices. Okay, I think I covered everything. Then the legal possibility, the consequences. Cyberbullying is definitely legal. And as I said, I don't have time to go through all of the laws, but if we have time at the end, if you want to ask questions, you can. Sexting is definitely legal. They can be arrested for both of those things and be placed on placed on the sex offender registry. They can be kicked out of school. Just a whole lot of legal consequences that can follow behind this online behavior. So here are some of the things that we suggest for parents and any youth serving professional. If you have charge over a young person, you have them in your care at any time for sports or education, right? It is very helpful to educate them. Educate them on what you know to be real that's happening online with young people. For parents, talking to your kids and talking to them often, talk early as they have a device, as early as before we even buy a cell phone or a computer for them. We should have that conversation about safety and the risks that can occur with us interacting on the internet, especially before they get to social media. A lot of young people are on social media before the age of 13, which is the legal age for being on the internet or having a form of social media. But of course, a lot of kids don't tell the truth about their age and they join. When we go to the elementary school, I would say between the age around grade 4th and 5th, 60% of them already have a cell phone or some other electronic device, and they are on social media, just like the older kids, which means that they are being exposed to a lot of older content at a very early age. So having these conversations is very, very important. Setting parental controls where maybe they cannot set up a social media on that particular device. Blocking out content where they can't view inappropriate materials for themselves. Setting those clear limits. Whatever your limits are, your rules and expectations for them in the house, you can apply it to their online activity. We do have that keep the computer in the open area. That is based on household. But if you have it in the bedroom, have an open door policy where you can walk into the room anytime, that you are able to check the history on their computer and on their device at any time. Please teach them about, the friends that they are accepting on the internet, those that they are communicating with, and allowing them, to enter into their online space. I kind of see it kind of like, would you allow everyone coming to your house? The answer is probably no. We would not just let anyone walk into our house and just do whatever they want to. So the same rule can be applied to their online activity. Teaching them about privacy settings, we all need to know that. Appropriate websites, safe websites, how to identify that, how to identify phishing activity, emails and things of that nature. A lot of kids are on Google Suites and they're using Google for school, but also through Google Meet, there's some inappropriate behavior going on through Google Meets. So talking to them about that in every space that you can think of where they can communicate with another person, from the gaming console to social media. Appropriate screen names are very, very important. No sexy legs 1, 2, 3, right? Appropriate usernames and making sure that they have strong passwords. We usually say 12 characters or more, upper and lowercase letters. Put in some numbers and symbols, maybe not make it a password, make it a passphrase, like a sentence or a song lyric, something that's personal to them, and not sharing their passwords. Sharing passwords is very big among young people, especially our middle school kids. And a lot of times when I ask kids, how do I create a strong password? A lot of times they're using their first and last name and their date of birth, because the figure is long. No one knows their middle name, and the date of birth are numbers. So definitely talking about not using personal information, identifying information in their passwords. Encourage them to talk to adults.
Is now joining.
Okay, so talking about letting you know if anything makes them feel afraid or uncomfortable. If someone is contacting them and they're very uncomfortable with that contact, they know when someone is not nice. They know when someone is being offensive. Sometimes they would just, because they don't know what to do, like taking action, like blocking, reporting, and deleting that person. They may not know that. So talking to them about it, and hopefully helping them to feel comfortable to come to us and talk to us about what's going on. I usually suggest to kids to have 3 trusted adults that they can go and talk to, especially if they are afraid to talk to parents, which we all know. We all had situations where we did not want to share things with our parents when we were growing up. So if they can use that other adult as a mediator between them and their parents, right? And help open up that conversation, whether it's a teacher, a coach, or another relative, adult relative. Making sure that they understand those sexually explicit images, do not share it with anyone, because they can get into trouble for just sharing it, even if they didn't originally create it, okay? So respecting others online, like their private and personal information, not being mean and hurtful to other people, not bullying, not sharing those images if it come through social media and laughing at it, making comments, joining in, and then being supportive. One of the things that I do worry about is when a young person is in a bullying situation or a sexting situation or online predator situation, they're afraid to come to us. So, or either when they come to us, how we respond. A lot of young ladies trying to live down a situation where they have been involved in this sexting situation. So we want to be supportive and try to get them the help that they need in order to move past that situation. And the same is for a young person that's dealing with a bullying situation or an online predator situation coming forward. A lot of times we're like, why did you talk to them? You shouldn't have been doing this. You should have been doing that. They don't want to hear that type of situation. It's what can you do to keep me safe? And that's where we need to be in that space. Okay, what do we need to do? We want to make sure that you are safe. So being very supportive on the front end as well as on the back end to help build that self-esteem and giving them the tools and the tips that they need to protect themselves. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. If anyone have any questions or comments, if I have time, you're more than welcome to do so.
Oh no, we've definitely got.
Okay.
Any questions?
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. That's okay. All right. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks so much, Robin.
You're welcome.
Up next, we've got Catherine McClary, the county treasurer, who's going to be talking about tax foreclosure.
So can everyone hear me? I've opened the share tray, but I don't know if, no.
If you like, Catherine, I can open up the PowerPoint for you.
Yeah, I guess you're going to have to, Moon. I am not familiar with Teams as I am with Zoom. And I'm trying to get rid of the chat too, so.
No worries. Let me get started here. 1 second, please.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now on Zoom, you can also watch as well as see the screen. The screen can be reduced somewhat. Is that possible with
Yes, it is. It's by user
Teams?
preference.
So, I mean, basically, these are the 5 topics that I'd hope to cover today, and there are materials that will show up on this screen, but we don't really need to talk about, and I'd be glad to take questions on Zoom, I can see people wave, or I can see them raise a hand, and it's just real easy. And I can usually follow along in the chat as well, but I would have to bring the chat up here. So first of all, I just wanted to thank Robin Batten. What powerful work and incredible work they are doing. Thank you so much. And that page on helpful tips was really important. I help prevent tax foreclosure as the county treasurer. And some people get confused between the difference between tax foreclosure prevention and mortgage foreclosure. If you are being foreclosed by your mortgage company, they can do that just by publishing for 4 weeks in the Washtenaw Legal News, posting on your property, and then holding a sheriff's sale. With tax foreclosure, it is all handled right here at the local level. The county treasurer's office, we have really compassionate and caring trained staff who can help prevent foreclosure and walk you through payment plans and so forth. And in fact, Moon was our first permanent staff person as a social worker in the office. So if I can't answer your questions, Moon can. If we can go to the next slide. This really gives you some idea of how the tax process works.
Hang on here a second, Catherine. Sorry.
Okay.
Did you sent me a second PowerPoint this morning, correct?
I did. That had them all strung together to make it a little easier.
Please hold.
That's okay. But basically, cities and townships issue tax bills every July 1st and December 1st. So when a person gets a tax bill, they have a period of time, a month, 3.5 months to pay the bill. If they haven't paid the bill, here we are with the timeline. If they have not paid the bill by the following year, then it's turned over on March 1st to the county treasurer for collection. So really what this shows you, here are last year's taxes, and it would be turned over on March 1st. There's always a 4% administrative fee and then 1% interest per month. And we spend a full year trying to collect the taxes. And we make phone calls in January and February of the following year. So that would be 2021. On March 1st, a property would enter forfeiture. That is not foreclosure. There is no change in ownership. It's simply the starting of foreclosure. And that's when we start to work really more in depth with people on whatever community needs that they might have that are preventing them from paying their taxes. So if we go to the next one, Moon, I just wanted to mention during the COVID pandemic, we are trying to work with people as safely and securely as possible in as much of a contactless way that we can. We are accepting payments by mail, by FedEx and UPS. We have a drop box both inside the building, and we do keep in-person appointments with customers by appointment. We have a drop box that actually has a secure drop box that they can use at the entrance of 200 North Main. And frankly, if there's anyone in the 200 North Main building that you need to drop off materials for, we have been accepting materials in that drop box and getting them delivered to anyone in the building. It was being used a lot by the clerk's office and staff during the primary election. We also have secure online ability to make tax payments. Anyone can go to the website, washtenaw.org/treasurer. And also I should mention my email address. If you have any questions or need anything, you can reach me at mcclaryc@washtenaw.org. And then you'll notice I have an email address here in the middle of the document, taxes@washtenaw.org, which is the website that we publicize. And was there a question that came up in chat? I thought I saw. Did Teresa have a question?
Sorry, that's my email in the background.
Okay, it's good to have you on the call, Teresa. And then Step Forward Michigan, we will help people with applications if they need that. So moving to the third point, it really does take a village to prevent tax foreclosure. One of the most important resources that I have found is Barrier Busters. Moon, I want to thank you and thank your staff, and Teresa, thank you. The listserv L-Barrier Busters is a lifesaver. I learned so many things from all of the people who log on, and we have been able to send an email when we needed something. One year, not this summer, but the summer before, when it was really hot, we had an elderly gentleman who we ended up getting an bedroom window air conditioner from Friends Indeed. I know Circle is coming up to speak after this, and that was just a lifesaver for him to be able to live securely in his home. We work with Habitat. They do budget and debt counseling. We work with United Way and all of the agencies that do income tax preparation for the homestead tax credit, for the home heating credit, for the earned income tax credit. We work with Synod and other organizations to do, and private contractors also, to do cleanouts and to work with customers who have issues with hoarding. OCED does weatherization and rehabilitation for the properties for our customers. Step Forward Michigan is a forgivable loan program, no interest loan program. There is an enormous range of social and human services, including we have been able to save some pets with the help of the Humane Society. We work with legal services and the U of M Law Clinic. We work with our local assessors to get principal residences and poverty exemptions for people who want to have their taxes reduced. We can do a financial hardship extension from foreclosure. And at the end, I've got some data points. I'll let you know how many of those we do. We work with local treasurers for utility abatements. We work with the probate judge to help people who may have cognitive impairments or fragility due to age or disability. The Housing Bureau for Seniors, I saw in the chat a little bit earlier. They are holding a senior living week, not this weekend, but the following weekend. And those weekends are always chock full of information. So check that out. The next slide, Moon, thank you so much for driving. I'm not going to go through this, but many people, due to income, are eligible to have their taxes actually reduced or eliminated, the real property taxes. And this is the eligibility criteria. The next slide, senior citizens, people with disabilities, veterans, one more, because that's the back page. They are able to get their property taxes deferred without interest and penalties. All of these forms, as I understand it, Moon has on the website, and anybody can email me if you have questions. Tax foreclosure prevention is also an equity issue, and I think we've got the back page to this, Moon, and then the last slide. My office has been working with our customers to do a number of projects. One of them is a bridge loan project to help people who who can keep their taxes paid up, but may need to get taxes caught up. The other program that we've been running is the Home for Generations. We've got 16 properties in the pipeline. If due to racial segregation, due to redlining, greenlining, and all kinds of discriminatory lending practices, African Americans often live in property they've owned for generations, but they have transferred it from generation to generation informally because of the racial discrimination and lending discrimination. So we have worked directly with the probate judge to and pro bono attorneys to actually deed these properties into the family's name, to be able to get them principal residences, to be able to get them income tax credits and homestead tax credits, so that they'll be able to transfer and sell the property when they want to, or get a conventional mortgage when they want to. We returned almost $700,000 in property wealth to African Americans and people without clear title last year. The third equity project that we are in the midst of investigating, the data shows that 10 to 13% of African Americans pay higher property taxes than whites due to discrimination. And we are working at trying to figure out how to quantify the disparity and to see if there is disparity in Washtenaw County with values. So the last thing I wanted to talk about were the metrics and give you some idea of what success it has been for people. We all know that to save somebody's home and to keep them in their home has overwhelming positive effects on their health, on their mental health, on their children's education, and for their well-being. But the numbers also prove that out in terms of government services and what government would need to pay for. In terms of step forward, our county has brought $8 million into this county from the federal government and helped 900 families stay in their homes. In terms of tax foreclosure, we bring in about 8,000 properties that are tax delinquent into our office each year on March 1st. When the 2019 taxes came over, there were about 8,000 properties that come over on an annual basis. This year, there was closer to about 6,500. A year later, after we have made collections, we typically have about 1,500 properties that forfeit each year. And this year, we typically have 1 to 2 dozen that foreclose. This year, we had 11 properties that foreclosed. We would have had a larger number, but I asked the judge to extend the foreclosure redemption date for people who wanted to pay but were having difficulty due to COVID. So that has been extended to March 31 of next year. We also withheld, although we foreclosed on 11, we withheld 327 properties from foreclosure to work with the people. Now, what we're facing coming up in the coming years is there is additional need. And it is not really, when I look at the numbers, I don't think it is really all due to COVID. I think it is due to the unaffordable nature of our housing in this county, with the amount of millages, the school millages, and the special millages that have been put on the ballot. Taxes have gotten really high. I have 844 more delinquencies right now at this time of year than I did last year. And I have 250 more forfeitures than I started last year with. So we know there's need out there, and we're continuing to work with funding sources, with the Board of Commissioners, with the Delinquent Tax Revolving Fund to maintain foreclosure prevention and keep people in our homes. And I just want to thank Barrier Busters again. And Teresa, thank your organization for the rehabilitation and weatherization. I know we're working on a couple of mutual customers right now. And I'm available for any questions, or people can email me.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Catherine McClary, please?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm Peggy McMurphy, patient advocate at Packard Health. You mentioned, Catherine, in your presentation that there's a hoarding resource in the community.
We work with Synod, and oh my gosh, I'm just blanking on the woman's name. Is Synod on this? Anyone from Synod on this call? Who is it from who's on the line from Packard Health? Oh, Peggy McMurphy.
Yeah.
Okay, Peggy, I will get you contact information for Synod, okay?
Because I'm working with Bonnie right now on a patient with Packard for the property taxes, and he's a hoarder. So anything we can get on that would be so helpful.
Okie doke.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, any other questions? Hearing none, we're going to be moving on to our third presentation on, sorry, hang on a second. I gotta get to my agenda.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
I'm going to stay on the call, but I'm going to mute.
Okay, great. Presentation on circles programming with Friends Indeed, and Susan's going to be leading the presentation. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And wow, Catherine, it's really great to know that the county is being so proactive to help low-income people and marginalized people. It sounds like you're really being, like you said, compassionate, and that's great to hear. And you said there's a lot of need out there, and it's great when we can all work together. Just real quick, Moon, can everybody hear me? Okay. I'm going to share my slides, hopefully. Yep, okay. All right, so our coach, Bonita Bingham, is also on this call, but I think she might be having some technical difficulties, so I may just go ahead and do the whole thing. Okay, so we are the Circles program. We're run out of Friends Indeed. And oops, now how do I move forward? Oh, there we go. Okay, so some of you might know about Friends Indeed. Most of you already do. You get small pockets of money. But you may be less familiar with our Circles program. A few years ago, we decided to expand our role. And let's see, yes, so we decided we need to expand our role, continuing to provide emergency service with the free furniture, with our car donation and car repair programs, and then the emergency helpline that Joy, who's on this phone call as well, is the helpline administrator for that, where people can call in for cash assistance and utility shut-off prevention and other things. But we felt like we wanted to continue doing that because it provides a critical, fills a gap in service. But we felt like people kept ending up in poverty, and we wanted to look for a program that would be good for the long term. We wanted to find a program that would promote and support long-term financial independence. And also, we were looking for something that wouldn't just put all of the responsibility just on the individual. We very much understand that individuals hold some responsibility for their own economic well-being, but we really wanted to build community across socioeconomic and racial lines, and that has to be done by everybody, not just by the people in poverty. So we adopted this program called the Circles. Circles, it's a national program. And the goal here is to really help people who are in poverty, these struggling families, bring them to at least twice the federal poverty level. Not just for the short term, but for the long term, moving them permanently out of poverty and into economic independence, self-sufficiency, off of public benefits. And as most of you might know, twice the federal poverty level is about that break-even point at which people can live not high on the hog, but live comfortably without any kind of public assistance. So Circles has a little different approach than other programs. We're trying to go away from the management of poverty and really look at collaborative solutions to it. So collaboration between the volunteers and the participants, between organizations and others. It's also really different in that it's not just a one and done service or something you need to qualify for and you get three activities or events or vouchers or whatever and you're out. Instead, it's really a relationship-based program where we match someone who is low income, and we call that person a leader. It's a little bit confusing, but the head of household is the person leading themselves and their family out of poverty. So we match someone who's in poverty with 2 or 3 middle or upper middle income partners. And they are not mentors, they are allies. They're meant to walk by the side of the participant or the leader. And like I said above, it engages the whole community, not just the people in poverty. So what else makes Circles different? We like to think that we really empower participants. We don't give them anything. They essentially work their way out of poverty. It involves the whole community. It's quite different in that it requires, first of all, 14 weeks of weekly training, followed by about 1.5 years of time with their allies and weekly meetings in the whole program. So it's a nearly 2-year commitment. And like I said, it revolves around a central relationship. I think the most exciting thing, both for the leaders and the allies, is that it asks people to do a great thing, something big. It's not just, like I said, a one and done or delivering food or a quick one-time assistance. It's really asking for a big thing. So Circles has been around for a while nationally. There's 70, actually I think there might be even more than 70 chapters now in almost half of our states, even a couple of chapters in Canada. In Michigan, there are 4 chapters. We're the most recent. The one in Fremont is in Newaygo County. It's a very rural program. And the other thing about Circles is that it's evidence-based. So to be part of this national model, we have to follow pretty strict guidelines, including data collection, and we have to do that at intake, at the end of training, and then every 6 months where we are collecting information on education levels, transportation reliability, housing stability, income, other public assistance, debt and credit, and so forth. Okay, so how do we find our circle leaders? The selection process. We sometimes receive referrals from agencies like those here today on Barrier Busters. Sometimes people hear about us through Friends Indeed. Sometimes we get direct inquiries or just referrals from family members or churches. Then candidates can, once they hear about us, they can apply. We have a really easy online application. They have to pass a background check, which doesn't, we don't necessarily exclude people who may have some criminal activity in their background. We just are very careful with anyone with any kind of sexual criminal misconduct because we have a children's program, but we take other issues on a case-by-case basis. And then they have an interview with us, with the coach, Bonita Bingham, and myself. And we get a good sense there if they're kind of ready and a good fit for the program. So we then review and make a selection, and then they begin their 14-week training program. So what is training? It's not the best picture, but the woman on the far right in the bright red shirt, African-American woman with the sort of red hair there, she was a leader in our first cohort, participant. And then she came back for the third cohort and helped co-teach it we paired her up with a very experienced teacher, and the two of them were co-facilitators for the new training for the third cohort. So we really excited about that. So the leaders study job skills, the soft skills that they might need to apply for a job or maintain a job. We do some budgeting and money management. We talk about education and setting goals for higher education or maybe getting their GED. And we cover a variety of topics from parenting, health and wellness, and again, breaking down huge goals into smaller, manageable items. So at the same time that the allies are, the leaders are doing their training, the allies also get training because they may not have ever experienced poverty and really don't know much about it. So they are given an overview of the leader's curriculum. Before COVID, we had a poverty simulation, which was kind of a very intense experience. It's a day-long or half-a-day training where people are in a gym and it's a role-playing situation, which can be very frustrating and thwarting for the allies, which is kind of the point to understand how poverty can really wear you down, make you make decisions you might not otherwise if you had the wherewithal and the time to think otherwise. And then we also give some training on coaching, how to help the allies coach the leaders more effectively. So what does it look like after that? We have weekly meetings. Again, before COVID, we would start with a really fun community meal that was donated by churches or Rotary clubs or other groups. And then we would have the meeting together. So sometimes we just have leaders and allies working together. Sometimes we have a particular workshop or training program. So like right now we're doing one on financial literacy. Actually, Catherine McCleary came to our, we did a session on predatory lending, and we talk a lot about the pitfalls of payday loans. So we would do a unit on that and so forth. We also have a lot of resources to wrap around our folks. So we have a help from our jobs and education resource team. So they're the kind of boots on the ground that might do the research for a leader. Let's say you have a client, one of your clients wants to go back to college, but first thing they need to do is finish their, maybe they've defaulted on a student loan. Well, the jobs and ed team would kind of research how to help clear up that defaulted student loan, look for scholarship opportunities, help them with the application process. And then finally, one part I really love about our Circles program is that we have an advocacy work. We have an advocacy wing. It's called the Big View. And here is where we try to tackle not just personal problems in getting out of poverty, but the systemic barriers. Contacting our legislators right now, we're even doing things like calling local grocery stores to see if they would change their policy on accepting EBT cards online so that single parents who need to go grocery shopping and have little children can do so safely, just doing it online with curbside pickup. That kind of thing is our advocacy program, part of Circles. So who are we? These are just a couple pictures of our cohorts. Group 1 started in 2017, and like we said, it's almost a 2-year program, so the cohorts overlap. Our second group started about a year later. Our third group started a little bit later, started last September, and then the fourth group was supposed to start this summer, but because of COVID, we are postponing it until the beginning of next year. So does it work? I mean, that's the real bottom line. Is this just a feel-good program, or does it actually work? And like we said, Circles requires us to get all of this information at intake and every 6 months thereafter. And so you can see just by looking at the slide, and our cohorts are very small, between 8 and 15 leaders. So you know how data with small groups of people may or may not be representative, but actually our local data is pretty close to this national data. And we found about a 19% increase from intake to the end of the class completion, nearly 40% or 39% increase 6 months afterwards. And these are for people obviously who stay in the program. And then 54% after 12 months, and actually a 75% increase after a year. What we think is even more important is the employment gains, because it can take time to really increase in your income, but to go from, many of our leaders are either they're either unemployed completely or have so little income at the beginning. And what we saw is a 40% decrease in unemployment, a small increase in part-time, but the exciting thing was this 49, or nearly half, nearly 50% increase in full-time employment, because of course those are jobs that may offer health care and paid leave if they have to stay home with a sick child, and a vacation time. This is the point at which somebody can start to thrive instead of just surviving, and have some real security, and they don't need the other assistance if they have full-time jobs with benefits. So what do we need from you? We really need you to broadcast the word. Right now we're looking for Circle leaders, and we will be starting our next cohort in January, and we would love to have your referrals. And then we would love for you to follow up with the people that you do recommend and say, hey, did you follow up on that, or follow up with us? Because especially with all of us just meeting remotely, it's harder to get the word out, and people are feeling pretty isolated. As Robin was talking about with the teens being isolated at home, of course adults are too. And
Roberta Hershon
is now exiting.
Oops, and they are they're isolated and they're overwhelmed, and the thought of joining one more program, even though it may support them very well and meet their needs, it might not initially occur to them as a good idea. So we would love for you to reach out and tell your folks about our program. So what are we looking for? I'll try to wrap up quickly here. Our basic requirements for a Circle participant is that they're at or below 185% of the poverty guideline, federal poverty guideline. They have to be a Washtenaw County resident, 18 years old, and we say relatively stable. Just in other words, they're not in the middle of a huge crisis like a domestic abuse, or actively in an addiction crisis, or homeless, because they need this is a longer term program, and they need some stability to be able to commit to it. Beyond those basics, we're looking for people who are open to new people and experiences, who are really motivated to work. There will be some people who just are not that interested in becoming financially independent, but circles can't really help them. Oops, I'm sorry. And someone who's able to commit to a long-term program, and that might be easier than you think. Quite a few of our leaders at the beginning thought, oh, I could never do 2 years. And then a few months into it are like, wow, this is going so fast. I don't want it to end. And then finally, being on disability is not necessarily a deal breaker, but they do need to have the ability and desire to eventually move off or phase it out. So help us help your clients. What we feel, what Benita and I really want to convey is that we hope this will be a mutually beneficial program so that you can refer your clients to us, but we will be able to offer real wraparound one-on-one assistance back to them. So we're offering the help of allies, we're offering ongoing support for 2 years, jobs and education assistance, political advocacy, and real leadership training as well. So tell the Circles program, tell them about our Circles program because it will help them and your programs be more effective. Assess the interest and please try to be realistic about it. Encourage them, you can complete and return the Circle Leader referral form to me or Benita, and I will follow up this with an email to Barrier Busters with a couple of forms to the whole group. And then last but not least, we're going to have a September 25th block party to meet Friends Indeed staff and Circle staff and just tell people all about our programs. And so that's about it. You can contact me or Benita. I'm sorry, Benita couldn't jump on the call here, but here's that's our mutual phone number and then Benita's email. So that's all I have there. Are there any questions? I'm trying to exit out of this moon. Did I do that right?
Yeah, I think I'm ending this presentation now. I think we're good.
Great.
Are there any questions? All right, well, thank you so much, Susan. That was wonderful.
Thank you.